Hi Otto. So we're starting from lesson feedback 13 today, and I think we got as far as ring something out, and I can't actually remember if I did this last time, if you wring something out, you remember it's with clothes. If my sock is full of water, if it has soaked up all of the water, maybe it's been left outside all night and it's been raining, I'll need to wring out the sock, and that's what wring out literally means. But if you wring the truth out of somebody, you're applying pressure to find out their secrets. So you can wring the truth out of someone as well, and it means put pressure on someone in order to find out their secrets. And this is very similar to drag something out, which was the other word we had here. I gave you the example, we dragged the truth out of him by ripping off his fingernails. So that's a lot of pressure, yeah. Similar to wring something out. If you drag the truth out of someone, you manage to pull it out of them using pressure or torture or extreme methods in order to find out exactly what that person knows. Okay, if you let the cat out of the bag, you let everyone in on your secret. You tell everybody your secret. You let the cat out of the bag. So it's an idiom, this one. And of course, you shouldn't blurt out the truth. You shouldn't let the cat come out of the bag. So don't let the cat out of the bag. Normally it's without come, by the way, let the cat out of the bag. But that will be used to mean give away a secret, reveal a secret, expose yourself in some kind of way. Next one is clam up or dry up. Very, very similar, I think, clam up and dry up. There was a very slight difference in meaning. I think clam up is from shyness, usually. When you're embarrassed or nervous, you clam up. So you might clam up if somebody asks you to talk about your childhood, if you find that an embarrassing period of your life, something like that. But dry up is I don't think dry up would be from shyness. Well, I mean, dry up can mean a few different things. Remember that it can mean, you can say your balls have dried up if the flow has stopped, and the river has dried up if the flow of water has stopped. Funding has dried up if the flow of money has stopped, and if the flow of words stops in a speech, then we say he dried up in the middle of his speech. But I can't find that meaning on on Cambridge here, which is a bit of a shame. Let's see if it's got dry up in Oxford. But definitely it means that. If you say he dried up in the middle of making the presentation, it certainly means that he ceased talking. Yeah, it's got it in Oxford as number 1. So it's obviously very common in this sense. Then he dried up and Philip couldn't get another word out of him. Or, as the BBC producers knew only too well, although he was a great talker, when faced with a microphone, he would dry up. I think dry up and clam up are very similar, personally. It's just that clam up sounds more like it's a shy person who wants to hide in his shell. Remember that a clam is a shellfish, and the fish lives inside the shell and hides inside the shell, and so clam up, it's related to shyness like that. But dry up, it just means cease talking because the flow of words stop. Okay, next one is to have a go at someone. Have a go at someone means to shout at them, scream at them. It means to really complain violently to someone, strongly complain about something. It's a really strong complaint. So if you have a complaint in a restaurant, you might decide to take things up with the manager. Take something up with, remember it's another good one for make a complaint. And if you take something up with the manager, you might have a go at the manager. You might start saying the food was awful, this was disgusting, I'm really angry. That would be having a go at him. But I mean, very often members in your family, they can have a go at you if you annoy them or upset them. You can have a go at other people in your class if they annoy you, irritate you. You can have a go at your brother if he's getting on your nerves, or he might have a go at you if he's annoyed with you for some reason. So have a go at's quite common. Let's move on to lesson feedback 14. Okay, we started with a cold spell, which I agree is quite strange. A spell here is kind of like a stint, although I don't think we'd normally say a cold stint. We normally say a stint in prison or a stint in hospital, or a stretch in prison sometimes. But spell here means a period of time, just like stint. So if you say a warm spell or a cold spell, it means a period of time. Usually spell means what Harry Potter does, yeah? He casts a spell. Usually spell means like that. But you can use spell to mean a period of time. You can say we had a brief spell in some other country. Let me give you a couple of other examples of this, because you can see it to mean a period of time. But I can't find it here at the moment. The letters, no, it's not that one. Spell 2, noun, a form of words used as a magical charm or incantation. Sure, okay, we know that one. A state of enchantment caused by the magic spell. Oh, no, that's only magic. Okay, spell 3. I've come on to the third meaning, because obviously spell a word, spell like Harry Potter, and then spell number 3, a short period. I want to get away from racing for a spell. I did a spell of greenhouse work. This is exactly like a stint of greenhouse work. So yeah, it can also be used to mean a period of time. Okay, to brush up on or bone up on, or there probably are some other ones here, cram up on, cramming up, cram up on. All of them mean to revise, to repeat previous work, to repeat some kind of topic that you've already studied in order to learn it even better. So I've got a Russian grammar book somewhere around here, and I use that Russian grammar book to brush up on lots of different features of Russian grammar which I forget, because of course I do. Sometimes I learn something new, but most of the time I'm repeating. So most of the time I'm brushing up on old themes. Never use this word for a new topic. It's always for something which you've already studied and you're repeating again in order to learn it even better. Same with bone up on. It seems to me you're doing it one more time when you brush up on or bone up on. You're improving your skills in that area, and it sounds like you already have some skills, but you're improving them. Okay, a backup. In the example that I've given you here, I'm using perhaps the most common way that it's used, which is when we have a hard drive. I've got my hard drive around here somewhere. That's what I'm trying to find. There it is. And so I back up all of my work, all of your feedbacks and all of the ebooks that I make and things like that. I back them up on this. I haven't done it for about 2 months, and so it's starting to get a little bit dangerous. I need to back up later today. Perhaps I'll do it when I go and pick up the kids from school, because that will be a perfect opportunity to back some stuff up here. Okay, a standby. Now remember, you can have your TV on standby, or your computer. When it's asleep, it's on standby. So firstly, we use it like that. The TV or the computer are on standby when they're on, but they're not powered on. I mean, they have a little light that's on, but the screen is black and the computer is sleeping. It's not doing anything or not doing much, but it's waiting to be used. If a person is on standby, it's very similar to a video or a computer or a TV screen or a monitor, because if you are on standby, it means that maybe you'll be needed, but it's not certain, and so you're just waiting. Just like the TV is waiting or the monitor is waiting to be switched on, if you're on standby, you're waiting, and if you are needed, you will join whichever team you need to work for. So maybe, let me think of a good example. In certain jobs, you know, if you're on standby, it's because they already have people out there working on it, but you're waiting just in case they need you later. You're on standby. So if you're a paramedic and you're on standby, you're probably waiting at the hospital. But other people, your colleagues, they're already out working. But it's not certain, because it's a Friday night. There's usually more people that end up in casualty in the accident and emergency department, and so they might have a few drivers on standby waiting at the hospital for at peak times. Okay, an understudy it works in the theatre, and they will perform if an actress gets sick or if an actor gets sick. So they are on standby, really. They're on standby. They're ready to take that person's place. They're ready to fill in for that person if that person gets sick. They're on standby. They're an understudy. Okay, they fill in for that person. There's another one for fill in for, which I'm forgetting. They fill in for that person. They cover for that person. They stand in for that person. There are probably some other ones as well. They take the place of that person. But yeah, fill in for, cover for, stand in for. All of those mean to do that person's job when that person can't do it. So I used to fill in for a lot of teachers. When I first started teaching, I was a supply teacher, and when other teachers were sick, they told the headmaster, and then the headmaster called me and said, Dave, can you cover for the chemistry teacher? Dave, can you stand in for the maths teacher? Dave, can you fill in for the physics teacher? Something like that. Okay, to back down or to climb down means that you had a position. Usually it's in politics, this. You had a position, an idea, a position which we're sticking to. Perhaps you wanted to, could be anything. Perhaps you wanted to decrease taxes. Perhaps you wanted to increase taxes. This example works better. You wanted to increase taxes, but there was so much pressure from the public. So many people cried out against the idea of raising taxes. They came out against. There was a public outcry, and in the end, the government backed down. They climbed down. They said, okay, we're not going to raise taxes. So it's when you have a position, but you surrender that position. And I mean metaphorically. I do mean when we're talking about ideas. If you support a certain policy and then you decide, because of pressure, usually public pressure, a public outcry, you decide not to maintain that position, but to say, okay, we're not going to raise taxes, then you back down, you climb down. It's how these two are most often used. Okay, the onset of something. Remember that this is the noun from set in. So winter sets in, a disease can set in, and we talk about the onset of winter, and we talk about the onset of epilepsy or something like that. It will be the onset of and then a disease. Okay, and then we're talking about the beginning of that disease or the beginning of that season. Now be careful, because we do have an expression which is at the outset, and at the outset means at the beginning. So we've got onset and outset, but outset is always used with at the outset, and then it means at the beginning. I don't think we ever use outset without that preposition. I can't think of an example. It's not like onset, where we do use onset without a preposition, and we say the onset of winter or the onset of a disease, something like that. Okay, next one is oncoming. If you crash into the oncoming traffic, the oncoming means coming towards you. The oncoming traffic is the lane of traffic coming towards you. So if you try to overtake someone, as you pull out into the other lane, if it's the lane which is actually for the oncoming traffic, things can be very dangerous. You can crash, you can have a head-on collision with the oncoming traffic. Upcoming, on the other hand, it means soon to take place. So the upcoming election is the election which is happening in a few weeks. The upcoming World Cup is the World Cup which is happening in a few weeks. It always means the one which is happening soon. Okay, if two runners are neck and neck, it means that they are even in the race. They are neck and neck. It's a dead heat, we also say. But it just means that they are at exactly the same position. Okay, neither one is in front of the other, and so they are neck and neck, the two runners or the two swimmers or whatever race it is. If you are the butt of the joke, then you are the person who the joke is directed at, and everybody laughs at you. They don't laugh with you, they laugh at you because you are the butt of the joke. So it's not good to be the butt of the joke. I don't think anybody enjoys being the butt of the joke, but of course we all are sometimes among our friends. We all make fun of each other, we all laugh at each other, and occasionally you'll make jokes where your friends are the butt of the jokes. I've been making a few today on my phone. I'm on a group, I'm with a group of people on a social network, and we often make fun of each other. We are the butt of each other's jokes. Okay, wound up. I get wound up. So this is from wind someone up, yeah? Wind someone up means irritate somebody, and if you say I get wound up, it means I get irritated. But remember that wind up can mean a few other things. You can wind up a watch, firstly. Yeah, in the old days you always had to wind up a watch because we didn't have batteries, and so watches worked by clockwork, and so watches needed to be wound up. Nowadays it's not so necessary really. But another meaning of wind up is wind up the lesson. Yeah, if I wind up the lesson with a test, that means I end the lesson with a test. It's very similar to wrap up. Let's wrap up the class with a test. I think wrap up is more common than wind up here, but it is another meaning of wind up. And you can also wind up in, which means end up in. I wound up in a terrible situation. I ended up in a terrible situation. I ended up in a predicament. I like this word, predicament. I wound up in a predicament, yeah, a difficult situation that I had to overcome. So yeah, wind up can mean finish. It can mean end up in, finish in this situation, and it can also mean to irritate or annoy somebody, or to get annoyed if it's get wound up. You always say don't suppress my yawns, so there you go, there's the first yawn. But I just have them a lot in the day, and I think it's partly because I'm looking at the computer screen or looking at my phone a lot of the time, and I think it gets me tired, but I'm not really feeling very tired. Anyway, next one, buy someone off. If you buy someone off, you bribe them. Okay, if you buy off the judge, you bribe the judge. If you buy off the referee, then you bribe the referee. Sometimes we talk about a payoff like a bribe as well, and so you might hear a payoff as a noun. He received several payoffs, but that's rare. Pay off is normally completely pay a debt. So if you say, have you paid off your mortgage, it means have you completely paid the mortgage. It doesn't mean just 1 month, but completely paid the mortgage. And with buy off, he bought off. Yeah, with buy off, it's really bribe. But buy someone out, the next word, it means to buy their shares, buy their position in the company, and buy all their shares so that they're no longer in the company, they are out. So when you buy someone out, you buy all of their shares until they are no longer part of the company. So it happens a lot, buyouts in the modern world, because shares are available on the stock exchange, and one company can take over another company by buying out all of the shareholders, or by buying up all the shares. So you could buy up all the shares, or you could buy out all the shareholders. That's the way those two work differently. Buy out all the shareholders, buy up all the shares. Okay, if you stand up for someone, that means that you support that person and you defend them against attack. Usually you're defending them against some kind of attack. It may not be physical. It's very often used for when somebody is being attacked verbally, and then you decide to help that person. You decide to stand up for that person, and you say, hey, you know, what are you saying about this guy? You're just as bad. And maybe you start criticizing those people. Maybe you start hitting out at them, lashing out at them, in which case certainly you stand up for that person, and you stand up to his enemies. When you stand up to someone, you confront someone, you face up to someone, you confront them, and you're ready for attack. It's like squaring up to someone, yeah? When you square up to someone, you square up your shoulders, ready for attack. When you stand up to someone, you stand up, ready for attack and ready to fight them. And certainly when you face up to some difficulty, you're standing up, ready for it, ready for action, ready to take the bull by the horns, yeah? And take this person on, take on the challenge. Okay, next one, a kickabout, a kick around, a knockabout. A kickabout is just a little playful, friendly game of football. So I'm sure there are lots of kickabouts out there in Brazil. You're very famous for being a good football team. And there certainly are here as well. Football is still a very popular sport here. I was hoping I could take Michael on Sunday to a local place for a kickabout, and they haven't called me, so I might call them a bit later just to check that it's still on, because if it's not on, I would quite like to find a different place where we can have a kickabout. I know a few other places, and so we'll go to one of them, but I would like him to start playing football every week and start to kind of enjoy it, or do. I don't even mind if he's not serious, but I don't want to force him into it, but I would like him to do some kind of sport every week, because I think it's important really to, and it's a good way to make some new friends as well. Next one is knockabout with, hang around with. This just means to socialise with. So I'd like Michael to go to this football so that he knocks about with the same group each week. He has a lot of friends at school, but that's at school, and I'd like him to knock around with a few other people. I think if he starts hanging around with some other people, it will help his social skills really. I think it just helps you get used to meeting lots of different people, and it is important in life. Okay, if you dumb something down, you make it easier. So we often say that the government have been dumbing down the syllabus, and it means that the exams have been getting easier and easier, and kids have been getting better and better marks. It's undoubtedly true that they do this every year, and that's why we used to have A, B, C, D, E as our marking system. Now we have 3 types of A. We have a really good A, a medium A, and a not so good A. And so everybody's getting A's nowadays, very few people getting lower than C. Nobody gets D or E anymore. And it just means that we split A's into 3 different groups, and so really we've still got the same system, but we pretend that everybody gets an A. And it's not just the government that are responsible for this, it's partly parents as well, and it's partly a modern it's partly the modern influence. It's a sign of the times, because I think that nowadays we think it's terrible to say to a child that they didn't get the top mark. And I mean, I totally disagree with this. I think if somebody's made a mistake, then you have to tell them. And I think that there's nothing wrong with mistakes. That's what you need to explain to kids, that there is no shame in making a mistake. We all do it. We all make mistakes. But instead, society decides to tell children that they haven't made any mistakes and that everybody in the class got an A. Because I understand they say that everybody tried hard, and it's true that effort is perhaps more important. It's true. But I find it really weird to just give everybody the top mark, because really in a subject like mathematics, you know, not everybody is getting every question right, and so we have to split the kids up and not dumb them down, but split them up into different groups so that we can find out who's the best, who's the next best. Standard education practice really. They still do it in all schools, even though they pretend that they don't. They put them in middle set, top set, bottom set, so they still do split them up. Anyway, that's enough about the dumbing down of the education system. If you chip away at something, you constantly work at it. I think this is very important, because I think that when we do little things every day, they add up to big things. And so if people do a little bit of English practice every day, if they brush up on their English just a little bit, if they just bone up on a few subjects, just 30 minutes or an hour every single day, they will get really good at it, because they are chipping away at their English. They're chipping away, maybe not at their English, but they're chipping away at this task. They're chipping away at it, doing a little bit of work every day, and it's means that they make a lot of progress when they're advancing towards their goal. Okay, so chip away at, it can mean erode as well. You can certainly say that, all of the people that have been in this room have been chipping away at the floor. I mean, the shoes and things like that, it does chip away at the floor, even though I use some excellent varnish, and so you do start to see little marks appear on the floor. And so in this sense, it does kind of mean erode. It's scratching the floor, it's chipping away at the floor. So it can mean erode or constantly work towards a goal, to chip away at. To pick away at means to keep talking about the faults of somebody else. So if you pick away at, it's normally used for faults. Let me find this online, because this isn't one which I use very often. Neither is chip away at, being honest. Let's get a good definition for both of these. So chip away at, in Oxford, they say gradually and relentlessly make something smaller or weaker. So rivals may chip away at your profits by undercutting your prices. That's certainly true as well. Something can chip away at your profits, and it means make them smaller. It means erode your profits here. Things can certainly chip away at your finances. That's certainly true. But pick away at, let's see what we've got for pick away at. Hold on. Oh dear, let's find it. It's given me chip away at instead of pick away at for some reason. Really hard to find these phrasal verbs in dictionaries, isn't it, sometimes? Yeah, it hasn't got them. And I can't see them in Cambridge or Oxford. Pick away at. I mean, they've got chip away at, but no, they haven't got pick away at. Okay, yeah, if you pick away at someone's faults, it means you keep reminding them. You keep going on at them about these things. You bang on and on about these problems that they're having, and so it's quite negative to pick away at someone's faults. But yeah, I just can't find pick away at. All I can find it in is the free dictionary. Pick away at something. Let's see what it says. To focus on, scrutinize, or dwell upon, there's a good word, focus on, scrutinize, or dwell upon every small or minor fault, problem, or mistake, or failure of something. So there we go. Yeah, it's when you keep reminding someone, you keep criticizing someone for their failures, their mistakes, their problems, and you really dwell on them. You keep going on and on about them. And of course it's not nice. Nobody likes to be spoken to like that. So yeah, I have to try and make sure I don't do this. I don't like to pick away at the faults of students or my kids. You know, as a teacher, you get used to pointing out people's mistakes, but you have to make sure you don't go too far, and you have to stay patient with people. You have to always remember that you're dealing with these pieces of grammar or these problems every single day, and they're not. And so of course you find it much easier. So yeah, I think we all have to remember to be humble and not too arrogant about these things, because what may seem very easy to me may be much harder for students, pupils, and the kids. So yeah, we all have to make sure we don't pick away at others' faults too much. Okay, cramped. If you're working in cramped conditions, I see my cat's just gone under the table and sat on my feet, so I'm quite cramped at the moment. If you're working in cramped conditions, it means crowded conditions. When you're cramped up, you're all crowded together. So you could even say cramped up. Let me look for that one for you. Cramped up. No, it's not in there. It's definitely a word, I'm not making it up. Cramp up. Okay, in Oxford they just have cramp, but inhibit the growth of, it can mean that, certainly. Oh, it doesn't have the cramped, maybe it's a different word, cramped, and it's not from cramp. Cramped, uncomfortable, small, or restricted. Yeah, cramped living quarters. But I very often say cramped up, personally. But yeah, like cooped up. The very next word on the lesson feedback. So you can say I feel all cramped up, or I feel all cooped up. And cooped up comes from chicken coo. I'm sure it's when you're cooped up, you feel like you're in, you know, those chickens that live in those awful conditions where they're all shitting on each other's heads and stuff, and they're fattened up so that they're bigger when they reach our plate. Really awful conditions. We say they're all cooped up in their little cages. They're all cramped up. So cramped up or cooped up. I've just put cramped on your feedback, but cramped up is exactly the same as cooped up. I feel all cramped up, I feel all cooped up. Let me see if I can find cramped up. Okay, I've got cramped in cramped conditions. But yeah, it doesn't seem to say cramped up. Let's look for cooped up. Usually be cooped up. Being cooped up indoors all day makes him fidgety. It's exactly the same as cramped up, but it hasn't got it in the dictionary. Okay, incoming. We've had upcoming, oncoming traffic, upcoming election, but incoming missile, yeah? I think we also use incoming on our email and text messages. It says incoming email and outgoing email. But incoming missile is a missile which is approaching. So incoming means approaching, getting closer in some kind of way. We've got next outgoing and incoming as opposites, because yeah, if a phone call is outgoing, you're making it and it's going out. If a phone call is incoming, somebody called you. So they are opposites, incoming, outgoing. Okay, to have or get the knack of something, to get the hang of something. This means to achieve mastery at a certain skill, achieve a position anyway where you feel very comfortable, where you have got used to doing this skill. So if you maybe you want to learn snowboarding, it might take you a few weeks to get the knack of snowboarding. Maybe you want to learn Chinese, it might take you a few weeks to get the hang of the new alphabet. Yeah, it might take more than 2 weeks, but to get the hang of something, it means to get the knack of something. It's exactly the same. Okay, to get at or to drive at means to imply, and it's very often used as a question. What are you driving at? What are you getting at? And it means here to imply. Now, of course, be careful with get at. It can mean many other things as well. But if it's used in that question, what are you driving at? What are you getting at? Then it means, what do you mean? What are you implying? What are you not inferring, but what are you implying? What do you mean? What are the implications of your words? So here in Oxford, get at can mean reach or gain access to. It's difficult to get at the screws. Yeah, it's difficult to reach the screws. So very similar to get to. You could say it's difficult to get to the screws. I would usually say that, being honest, but I've heard that before as well. It's difficult to get at the screws. Could also mean bribe or unfairly influence or threaten. So if you say that the mafia have got at the jury, it means they've threatened the jury and the jury are now going to stay quiet. But if you get at the judge, it might mean that you've paid off the judge, you've bought off the judge. There we go, I used paid off, like bought off. You've bribed the judge, you've paid off the judge, you've bought him off. Could mean that as well. And the last meaning, which I haven't mentioned yet, it means imply, but it also means criticize. So if you say you shouldn't let him, no, that would be get to, but if you say, I hope you didn't think I was getting at you, it means I hope you don't think I was criticizing you, having a go at you. So it can mean have a go at as well. I hope you don't think I was getting at you, that I was having a go at you, that I was, being nasty to you. So criticize someone repeatedly could also mean get at. But drive at is very similar to imply. It's kind of like aim at. It reminds me of aim at. What are you driving at? What are you aiming at? What do you mean? What are your words aimed at? What exactly do you mean? What are you implying? Okay, next one. Point blank. He asked me point blank how much I earn. So here point blank means without warning, suddenly, out of the blue, unexpectedly. He asked me how much I earn. I would actually say this is more than just without warning. It seems to me that it means bluntly, directly. Now I'm thinking about it. When you say he asked me point blank how much I earn, I would say that it's direct and without explanation or qualification. Okay, yeah, this is better than without warning, because it's not exactly that. It's without explanation. It's just incredibly direct, point blank. It's blunt. With certain topics, it might be advised, if you want to bring up a certain topic with a friend, perhaps it's a very sensitive topic, you might want to approach the problem, you might want to come at the problem from a very indirect angle. Because if you directly, let's say you want to borrow some money from your brother, and you're quite sure that if you directly ask him, can I have some money, he'll say no, he'll turn you down. But if you approach the problem, if you come at the problem indirectly and maybe remind him of a few nice things that you have done for him already, you might have more chance of getting the money. And so the first way, you can see, you just ask him point blank and you don't get the money. But if you ask him carefully, tactfully, then you might have a good chance of getting the money. And this would not be asking him point blank. This would be asking him in a strategic way, in a tactful way, reminding him of all the good things that you've done for him. Okay, so that wouldn't be point blank. But remember that point blank actually means, if you fire at someone point blank, it means that there's no distance between the gun and the victim. It means the gun is touching their skin. It's that close, or very, very close, within a meter, certainly, point blank. So you can see why it means to do something directly without explanation or warning. It just comes out of the blue and you do it, you directly ask. Okay, so quite often it's used negatively, and when you say he asked me point blank how much I earned, you mean he had no tact. He didn't even try to you know, tactfully ask about my salary. He just straightway asked, how much do you earn? So it could be considered rude or perhaps tactless. Okay, the next one is to be down to come down to put down to. We know that this is all cause and effect. We say that global warming is down to the production of carbon dioxide, or global warming comes down to mainly CO2 gas, but also several other greenhouse gases. Or you can say, I put global warming down to the solar cycle. Or I put global warming down to the lack of legislation which protects the environment. Could be anything like that, but I think we've done these a few times now. I think you're pretty aware of these ones which ascribe cause and effect to different events. Okay, if you are knackered out or worn out or tired out, you're probably yawning, you're probably a little bit tired. So it means to be, it's usually used for people. However, you can certainly use worn out for lots of other things like machines, clothes, anything which is old and knackered, anything which is old and broken. You can say, these shoes are worn out, these slippers are a little bit worn out. Look, I've got something worn out right here. See the end of that slipper? It's getting a little bit worn out. So worn out can also be used for clothes, meaning they've been worn many times and now they're looking a bit shabby. Okay, downcast eyes, so eyes that go down, very sad eyes, very depressed eyes. Downcast eyes are not a good thing. Remember, compare this with overcast for the sky. When you say the sky is overcast, it means it's cloudy. Yeah, it's grey and it's cloudy and it's not a very nice day. So it's another useful phrase, downcast eyes. Remember that we say that his face clouded over as well, like an overcast day. His face clouded over, to mean that he suddenly got... It would normally be a little bit angry, actually, to cloud over. Let me check that one. Not just depressed. In fact, I wouldn't say it means depressed, but it does mean to get angry when your face clouds over. Hold on, phrasal verbs, in the clouds, under the clouds, head in the clouds. They don't have it in Oxford. I should write Oxford Dictionary. Let's have a look. Cloud over. Yeah, they've got it in Cambridge. Good. If a person's face clouds over, they suddenly look unhappy or worried. Okay, they've gone for unhappy, But it seems to me that cloud over can be angry as well. Let's see if I can find any other ones that say more like my definition, because I would normally use it for when somebody gets angry. To become cloudy or overcast. It says here we've got an example of her eyes clouded over with grief. So they are using it for depression, for sadness. Let's see Macmillan. What does Macmillan say? They show a negative emotion. Okay, that's a better definition from Macmillan. Negative emotion is the main idea. Could be sadness, could be depression, could be anger. But when your eyes or face cloud over, you're showing a negative. It's a negative feeling which is being shown on the face. I'm going to quickly check Free Dictionary to fill. No, they don't have anything on the Free Dictionary, unfortunately, about that one. That's a shame. Okay, crestfallen. Wow, there's a good word. If you are feeling crestfallen, then it means you didn't achieve what you hoped to achieve, and you're unhappy about that. Let's see what Oxford say. Sad and disappointed. Yeah, you're disappointed because you didn't achieve what you hoped to achieve. He came back empty-handed and crestfallen. She came home from school quite crestfallen the other day. So maybe she hoped to get the right answer. She put her hand up and the teacher said, nope, that's a rubbish answer. You would probably feel quite crestfallen, quite disappointed. So it's another good word, quite literary, not very informal, but still a good word. Okay, an outcast. An outcast is a pariah. If you know this word pariah, I assume that pariah is a Latin word. Not completely sure though. A pariah is a person who is been thrown out of society, an exile. Yeah, they have been exiled from society. So they are now very similar to the word outlaw. You know the word outlaw. An outlaw is someone who's outside the law. They've broken the law and now they're outside the law. Maybe they're a fugitive, maybe they're on the run, maybe they still remain at large, which means that they're still they haven't been caught by the police. But yeah, an outcast is somebody who is cast out of society. I mean, it literally means to cast. It's from the phrase verb to cast out, which means to throw away, to throw out. They've been thrown out of society, and now they're an outcast. Nobody likes them. Nobody wants to talk to them. They're an unpleasant person. Usually, you become an outcast because of some kind of terrible crime that you've committed, and nobody wants to speak to you. Then you become a villain, a scumbag, that kind of thing. That's who an outcast is. So yeah, it means that you're not in society, you're out of society. Okay, if you've got bleary eyes, that means cloudy eyes. It means that your vision is cloudy. And maybe it's because you've got lots of sleep in your eyes and you've just woken up. Maybe it's because you've been drinking too much. Maybe it's because of the rain or the weather that's making your eyes bleary. I mean, even the windscreen can be bleary if you're trying to look through it and it's all cloudy. I would even say bleary windscreen. Not sure about that one actually, but no, normally bleary eyes, and your eyes are red or they have tears in them. Remember the phrasal verb, a great one. I like this one because I've just come across it. Well up. When your eyes well up, when they fill up with tears, you get bleary eyes. Okay, when your eyes well up, and I think well up is probably from the word well, meaning a place where you go and get water. Yeah, where the bucket goes down into the well and then it comes up and it's got water inside. Well, when your eyes well up, the water builds up and then overflows, and you burst into tears. But yeah, well up, when your eyes fill with water. I've got a feeling there's another phrasal verb like well up, but I'm forgetting it. Well up. Can't see any synonyms here. I just can't remember from my videos if we had a synonym of well up. No, that's not right. Well up synonyms on the thesaurus? No, they've just got accumulate, because the tears accumulate in your eyes when your eyes well up. So I suppose they're just using it like that, but There is something else about the face for when you're looking upset like that. I've just forgotten it. Okay. If you are kidnapped, it means that people steal you and then demand a ransom from your parents. So they demand ransom money from your parents or from someone else who wants you back. So if you're kidnapped, you're taken away against your free will. I think you're quite familiar with that one though. Next one is to be riddled with, and you are always riddled with something negative. You can be riddled with bullets, riddled with a disease, riddled with cancer. But you can also say, this essay is riddled with mistakes. And so it can be used metaphorically as well to mean that something is full of shit. Yeah, that something is riddled with, and then the negative noun. It's not good to be riddled with anything. You want to avoid it, certainly. If something eases off, if the traffic eases off, then it means there's less and less traffic. There's less and less heavy traffic. And so there are less and less traffic jams, and there's less and less sitting in traffic jams. And so everybody wants the traffic to ease off. But to ease anyway, to ease means to relax in some kind of way. And so if you ease off as well, I think people can ease off, not just traffic. If you ease off, you relax in a certain way. You gradually stop or become less, it says here. You can say the rain began to ease off. There are a few other ones for this one, aren't there? For the rain gradually stopped, the rain eased off, the rain eased up. Both of those would be possible. The rain eased off, the rain eased up, and it would mean to gradually become less. The rain tailed off, the rain tapered off. They're the ones I'm trying to think of. The rain tailed off, the rain tapered off. They also mean to gradually stop or become less. Let me just check those two. Tail off. Yeah, reduce in amount or become lower in level. Her voice tailed off, profits tailed off. But you can certainly have taper off as well. Gradually smaller, weaker, happen less often. So sales tapered off, her voice tapered off. Tail off and taper off are identical, and they're very similar to ease off or to ease up. Because you can say the party eased off later on, in that meaning that the noise gradually got quieter. That would be possible as well. Forgotten the one where noise gradually got... trail off, isn't it? There's so many here. Tail off, taper off, and trail off. The noise trailed off. I think voice trailed off, we often say, and it means get gradually quieter and quieter and quieter. So a lot of these ones with off. Okay, to flirt with or toy with means to play with. They both mean to play with, and I mean in the literal sense of playing. If you say he's toying with the idea... very common in fact, he's toying with the idea of becoming a policeman. It means he's not sure, but he's thinking about it. Maybe it's a good idea. He's toying with the idea, he's flirting with the idea of becoming a policeman. It just means maybe he will, we're not sure yet, but he's thinking about it. He hasn't made a serious decision yet. He hasn't committed himself, but he is thinking about it. Okay, to suck up to or to play up to. To kiss someone's arse, to lick someone's arse. I think we know this one quite well. To butter someone up as well, if you butter someone up. So earlier I could have said you might try to butter your brother up by reminding him of something good that you did for him, yeah? And then it would be trying to suck up to him to make sure that he can lend you the money, yeah? You're trying to butter him up. Okay, that's the end of lesson feedback 15. We're on to lesson feedback 16. And we start with jam-packed, which means really crowded, cooped up, cramped up. If the nightclub is jam-packed, it sounds quite uncomfortable to me because you're going to spend ages waiting in a queue to get to the bar. You're going to bump into people on the dance floor all the time because the place is too crowded and everybody is all cooped up. Yeah, so it's a good word, jam-packed. If you talk about grime, excuse me, grime means dirt, especially greasy dirt. Excuse me. Let me look for it in Cambridge. Grime is a layer of dirt on skin or on a building. So it sounds like grease to me, a layer of greasy dirt. And of course, you want to clean up any kind of grime that's around your house and get rid of it. I think that's quite an easy one. Next one is to put together, to take apart. I used to love putting together Airfix models. Now, I could also say piecing together Airfix models because pieced together and put together are almost identical. But pieced together can be used metaphorically as well, and you could say Sherlock Holmes had to piece together the evidence in order to catch the criminal. And you might say something like, she pieced it all together when she found the pair of knickers under her husband's bed. Yeah, she pieced everything together. She understood everything that had happened, or that was happening. But to put together means to assemble, and to take apart to disassemble. So I used to love putting together these models, piecing them together, and then painting them at the end. My brother did the same, and we used to decorate our room by putting them up on pieces of string or whatever, so you had airplanes and tanks all around the room. And really liked that. I just like the slow process of being careful, gluing everything together so that it looked good. Okay, to get through or scrape through, if you get through your exams, then you managed to pass them, but they were very difficult. And if you scrape through them, you only just pass them. But please remember that this get through doesn't have to be about exams. You can get through anything that's difficult. So you can get through a divorce. And it just means that you finally finish the whole process. You've gone from one side to the other, and you're now fully divorced, a free man. And you get through it because it's not a pleasant experience. It's a difficult experience. It's not a nice experience. Maybe for some people it's quite pleasant, I'm not sure. Maybe if some people really want to get rid of their spouse, it may be a very pleasant experience, the divorce. But I think a lot of people, especially when they have children, it seems to be something, it seems like the process is dragged out for a long time, it's prolonged, and it's difficult with the children deciding who gets them on what days. And I think very often both parties lash out at the other party and try to do something nasty to upset them. They try and get at the other person, they try and get under their skin, we say, to annoy them. They try and wind them up, and so it can get quite spiteful. Okay, to jump over. Yeah, just jump over the fence, jump over a hurdle. Easy one here. And so if you had to jump over several hurdles, hurdles here would mean hindrances, obstacles, and you had to overcome lots of challenges. And that's the next one, to overcome challenges. It means to jump over hurdles, to overcome difficulties, to make progress in spite of the hindrances, in spite of the things which are holding you back. You still manage to make progress, you manage to overcome those challenges. Okay, slant means, very often we talk about slanted eyes, which would mean Chinese or Japanese eyes, but slant literally means just on a slope. If something is slanting, it's not vertical, it's like that, it's slanting to one side, like leaning, very similar to leaning. So a slant is actually, it means something which is running at an angle, not vertical, not horizontal. Yeah, not horizontal, not vertical, but slanted. Let's see how else it can be used. That's a good point. It's a good phrasal verb with slant. Slanted against or slanted towards. And here it means biased against or biased towards. Biased means not objective. It means you're prejudiced in some way, maybe because somebody has bought you off and so you're on their side secretly. You know, somebody's bribed you, somebody's bought you off, and so you are slanting towards them, you are biased towards them. But maybe it's the opposite, and you don't like them, you've never liked them, and so you're slanted against them, you're biased against them. So yeah, it's very often used for presenting information, this. You will often say that reports in the media are slanted against this group, yeah, or are slanted towards this group. So slant against or slant towards is a good phrasal verb there. I found it just on Cambridge when I checked out slant. I looked up slant, and you can say the car was parked on a slant, on a hill, yeah, on a slope. It's the same as slope. But you can also say the snow came down at a slant. So it means the snow was hitting, not like that, but like that, from an angle, from the side. And it can even mean, a slant can mean one other thing. If you say the book had a political slant, it means the book had a political aspect. It means it was aimed at politics. It was slanted towards politics. So it's also used like that, a political slant, an economic slant. That one's less common. Okay, wax and wane. The moon waxes when it gets bigger and it wanes when it gets smaller. So if you talk about something waxing or waning, you're talking about something getting bigger or getting smaller. Maybe, because they do have other meanings. But wane, you can say my enthusiasm. I was brimming with enthusiasm at first, but after 3 weeks, my enthusiasm waned. It means my enthusiasm tapered off. My enthusiasm tailed off. My enthusiasm got less and less and less and less. Yeah. So to wane, it means to reduce in amount, and that's why I can say taper off, tail off. Forgotten the other one that I just said a second ago. Taper off, tail off. God, it's so easy to forget these phrasal verbs. But yeah, to ease off. Yeah, my enthusiasm eased off after a few months. It could even be used like that. Normally taper off and tail off, I think, more often than ease off. But it has got that aspect, ease off, of waning, of reducing in amount. Okay. Next one's good. This is particularly about my son. When we walk somewhere, usually he lags behind a little bit because he's got little legs compared to his sister, and so it is harder for him to go at the same speed. But normally, I mean, he likes running, he loves running around, and so he doesn't always lag behind. But if he's walking, he does tend to lag behind. He tends to dawdle. And I even said it to him the other day. I said, you do tend to dawdle. And I asked him as well, what does lag mean? And he got it right. I was very pleased with him. Because, I mean, we usually use this in terms... We very often use it in terms of Skype. If the video is lagging, no, usually the sound is lagging behind the video. That means that you see the video first and you see the mouth moving and then you hear the sound. So they're not synchronous. They're not simultaneous. One is slightly lagging behind the other. So lag behind, straggle behind, dawdle. That's what all of those mean. Okay, to be packed out, it means to be really crowded, to be jam-packed. It means that it's so packed out that everybody inside is cooped up. And that's the difference here. A nightclub is packed out, but people are cooped up. Okay? You say that people are cooped up when they're in a place which is crowded out. But they're very, much connected. The place is crowded out, the place is packed out. The people are cooped up like little chickens in those, in those chicken coos, in those battery hen farms. And that's how we feel when we're in a packed out place. If you get on the metro, on the underground, in the middle of rush hour, it's packed out and you feel like you're cooped up and nobody likes it. Okay, a cock up, muck up, botch up. I think you know full well what a cock up is. It's a mistake. Yeah, it's when somebody makes a mistake, they cock up. You can also say muck up or botch up for both of these ones. But we've done these ones lots of times, so I don't think there's going to be any problem there. I remember recently about conspiracy theory on the BBC, they said this was a cock-up, it was not conspiracy. And they want me to believe that every conspiracy is just a cock-up. And while I agree that a lot of them are just cock-ups and not conspiracies, I don't think all of them are by any means. Because I think that if we say that all conspiracies are cock-ups, we're saying that there is no crime, or there's no crime done by many people as a group. And that to me is ridiculous. Of course there's crime, and of course it's not just all mistakes. Sometimes there are criminals behind some of these things. Okay, next one is snot, what you find in your nose, especially if your nose is blocked up or bunged up. If your nose is blocked up or bunged up, it means it's full of snot. I've had a cold for the last week and my nose was blocked up and bunged up. My throat was quite blocked up as well, but my nose was blocked up with snot. And so when you blow your nose, there's a load of snot in the handkerchief or the tissue. Okay, the lurgy is any kind of disease which is going around, which is contagious and which is going around at that time. So if the flu is going around, we can say, oh, he's got l'allergy, and it means he's got the flu. He's got that nasty flu which is going around. So it's a general word, very informal, for any kind of disease, bacteria, virus, flu, cold, anything which is going around at that time. Okay, if you muck around or mess about in class, you are naughty. That's all. It means you're getting up to something in class, and maybe you're getting away with it. Hopefully you're getting away with it. But muck around or muck about, it just means misbehave. Misbehave, behave badly. Okay, we'll stop here for today. We'll carry on from lesson feedback number 16, and we will start with gang up with, or gang up on, or gang up against. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow anyway to discuss lots more phrasal verbs, no doubt. I've done another Mind Hunter, and Mind Hunter's still got loads of cool phrasal verbs, so I'm really pleased about that. And I'll probably make a video on phrasal verbs tomorrow. Might even make one today, but I'm quite tempted to do something else a bit later. But anyway, I'll see you tomorrow at the usual time. Have a great day. See you soon.